situation with David? Obviously right now recruiting would be a really big issue on the table.
Yeah, I mean, right now David's recruiting like any other coach would, and the coaching staff is doing that as well. You can probably look around the arena and you'll see the recruits around here. You might notice they're particularly large. But I think, April 11th is the signing date. We're going to have those kids around here. We're talking about wearing the jersey that says Louisville as much as for who they're playing for, being the head coach. But I think the recruits, when I talk to them and talk to their families, it's about what's going on in the athletic department. And they certainly have faith and keep us in the mix because they know whether it's David or whether another coach that we're not going backwards, we're going forward, and our expectations for the program hasn't changed.
What's your timetable for figuring out a more stable situation for that? Because does his deal end in April? How does that work?
Now, David's deal was a year-long contract, so it actually run through to next October. So he was in a contract year, full year, so it'll run past the end of the season. When the season gets to a point, gets to an end, David and I will sit down and talk more specifically about that. I don't want to distract him with that. We've been on a run here where the team needs his focus, as does the staff. So there's a better time than now to do that.
Vince, as far as the restructuring right now, who is in charge of things under you right now? Have you hired anybody new or appointed anybody to those new spots?
No, well, right now the ones that when Kevin Miller retired, I should say, we had his retirement party today, which was a lot of fun, good roast. We took Jeff Spelker in the finance area, stepped up and has taken more responsibility there. He's been with the university for a long time. I think he spent 10 years on the budgeting side of the university before he moved over to athletics. With his background in finance and budgeting, understand exactly how the university works has been beneficial to athletics. On the HR side, since we're combining it with other opportunities in legal contract, student conduct, that's something we'll recruit for, and then we're going to leverage the university's HR, and they've tagged a couple people now that'll be specific and dedicated to the athletic department. So we should be leveraging their resources as much as we can.
Vince, when the restructuring happened on Friday, Tom Jurich's PR company, Boxcar PR, said it was retaliation is the word they use for Tom no longer having the job. I guess, what is your reaction to those words?
Yeah, I think my reaction is what I just gave you in my update. There's Mark and I are close friends. That's not an easy one, but I'm trying to do what's best for the athletic department and the university, so I got to put that aside. It may seem like a cold act on one end, but it's far from retaliation. It's for what's best for the student-athlete experience and what we're trying to get done, and we're no longer have sport management and fundraising.
What is your financial situation right now? If you take stock of your assets, are you behind? There's a number that's the budget. Where do you stand compared to the budget?
Yeah, well, there's a budget, and then there's where we are actually. I think I'm more concerned with where we are actually. The budget is behind on basketball revenue. We reported last week that it was down about $2.8 million versus where we thought it would be. We're going to have a little bit of catch up in January because it was probably a conservative forecast related to single game ticket sales. But in general, the budget is fine. I mean, Jeff and I have looked at it in terms of whether we're going to balance out this year and so forth. We've made cuts. We certainly have a difference in salary coming from the head basketball coach and as you hear now, coming from the AD's office. We've already cut some of these expenses and that in the AD office and elsewhere in the department that I felt was different. We looked at the bowl different on how we looked at charters and a variety of things. We're going through every line item, but we're in good shape.
So you're down 3 or 4%, or what do you think your revenue is down?
Yeah, that's about in that range because our budget generally we call plus or minus 105 million is where it usually runs, and that's about right.
Vince, back to the basketball recruiting for a second. First of all, have you and your superiors talked about a timeline as to when either you or someone else in your position will be made permanent? And secondly, if you are still an interim AD, will you feel comfortable and have the authority to hire a coach permanently for basketball? It would seem to me very difficult to recruit when you can't tell a kid who's going to be his coach next year. So lastly, and I apologize,
I'll remember.
Will you, do you hope to have a permanent coach named by April 11th?
Let me go back to the first part. It was in last week's EULA board meeting, Dr. Postal made it clear who was on the search committee, or should make it clear the timeline for the search committee, and talking about getting a search firm in place in their meeting, I believe February 13th. the idea is that they would have an expedited process and try to have the AD named by the end of March. And that's a quick run at it for sure. So that's a timeline. The second part of it, obviously we're aware when the signing date is and how that falls with the Final Four and March Madness and all things going on. Am I comfortable making that decision? I'd say yes. Would I make that decision? I'd say yes. I haven't worried about the interim or acting tag or whatever it is at this point. When you get into these positions and you're going to take over a role, you can't get caught up in whether you're carrying an acting interim. You have to make decisions and what you think is best on behalf of the department. Much like decisions on Friday, I'd make the same on the basketball coach.
Thank you.
Between the salary cut you've self-imposed and the 3 changes you made, I'm guessing you're probably cut by about $1 million in salary. Do you expect to hire into that, or is that a goal to maintain that level?
No, I think that there would be, you're probably jumping ahead on, I know what my cut is. That's clear to me, and in terms of what we're doing at the AD's office. In terms of the senior roles, I think it depends on what we fill back in. We have a deputy AD position, which will be the operations portion of Kevin Miller's role that we'll need to fill. The associate AD, which will take over effectively the HR and other responsibilities. The associate AD of student health and wellness will fill. We've already backfilled on the fundraising side with current talent. But in net, there'll be savings, but depending on what type of talent and their experience we'll find out what the difference in the spread is. There's definitely going to be savings.
After restructuring, who is leading that fundraising effort?
Michael Dudas, who was our assistant AD in fundraising, has stepped in that role. We have a great staff. They've been here a while. I've fortunately got to work with a lot of them before I got here, including Michael. He's handled capital gifts, done a number of things, worked with a variety of our corporate people as well as our larger donors, and we will backfill inside that, but at a lower level to add bandwidth.
So
is he overseeing the stadium expansion as well?
No, the stadium expansion is inside the operations. Jeff Spelker, Michael Ortman on our operations side has really been the point man on that to begin with, and obviously I've been more involved in the last 30 days.
Did you mention on the minority piece, the opportunities? We understand the nepotism policy and the situation with the football program. What are you all putting in place for opportunities for our minorities in the athletic program?
Yeah, there is diversity programs that are in place. We obviously have people in Christine Simatopoulos and myself been getting involved with the diversity side, as well as Marvin Mitchell from our academic side. So if anything, just ramping up our activity on that side.
Did you have any trepidation making dismissals as an interim AD?
No.
And why is that?
Because I've done this before, and you do what's right for the business. You don't worry about the emotions attached.
Are there going back to the reorganization, are there more terminations coming down the pipe to kind of trim that budget?
No, what we've looked at is we're trying to look at our spending versus headcount. We felt like we need to get the structure in place that's appropriate, and talking about it today is because I've taken the time to meet with the head coaches all separately, the senior staff separately, and then yesterday we had all athletic department personnel in the Thornton's Academic Center and the auditorium, and I gave everybody a view of the prior organization chart, the current organization chart, my expectations on that, and challenging to get on board or move along.
Vince, this may seem like an odd question, but a couple weeks ago, ESPN's Dan Dockich had kind of a report that U of L had lost the appeal and was going to get fined maybe $15 million. I know you can't talk we don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but was there frustration, or what was the emotion when you saw that leaked report from somebody like that?
I was embarrassed for Dan.
The football expansion, you said 6,000 seats, is that exactly so that?
No, not exactly, approximately. There's an RFP that'll go out for the actual chairs and seating, and they come in and do the final diagnostics.
So the listed capacity next year would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 61,000?
Yes.
Vince, is there I guess a rainy day fund or savings that you guys have kept aside in case you do lose the appeal and have to pay that significant financial?
Yeah, well, we do have funds in the foundation. I mean, we do have the Hickman Camp Fund. We have other funds over in Hickman Camp, or outside the Hickman Camp over the foundation. They're probably in the range of 23, 24 million today, with the Hickman Camp being the bulk of that, probably 2/3 of it.
When you inherited the job or took the job versus now, been a steep learning curve. What have you learned? What are the biggest challenges that you've seen that are related?
Well, certainly, when you get in here, the donor unrest, because it's hard to articulate all the good things that are going on amongst all the noise. And I think that I'm not panicked by that at all. I mean, it's a time issue, and getting it out there and taking the time, and people talk about, hey, I'm going to drop my tickets and so forth. It's educating them about the student athletes and why we're here and what we try to do, even with my own donor dollars. And I've been in the student athlete shoes, and what I'm trying to assure them is we're not going to disrupt their student athlete experience while they're here. They're going to have a great experience. They're going to be proud to wear the Louisville gear. They're going to be proud to be a part of these teams and have these terrific coaches, and that's what we're here to protect. And there's plenty of donors out there that help support that cause. You may hear of some leaving, and you'll hear about some coming, but I'm not in here trumpeting every time we add a new donor or someone steps in and says, I'm happy to help support this cause, even while there may be a smaller voice. We got to give them the right information.
How have you tried to develop relationships with some of the other coaches with all the changes? And you talked about the staff changes, but how have you tried to reinforce and maybe allay some of the concerns with some of the other coaches?
Communication. I meet with them often. I meet with them. I talk to them at any time of the day. They call me on the weekends. I meet as a group. We bring them all together like we did in the auditorium this week. It's not the first time to have a full head coaches meeting, and I carry the agenda. So it's engaging with them, be involved in hands-on, and I do one-on-one meetings. I sat with Dan McDonald today for an hour, going through where his issues are, and we just go coach to coach.
Time for maybe one more. Anybody?
Vince, you were, a minute ago, I think you said that you had challenged the staff to get on board or move along. Do you think there is still a residual loyalty to Tom that you're fighting?
I don't know. I don't ask them whether it's Tom or whatever the issue is. It's just if there's something that they're not supportive of, I'm happy to talk with any of them one-on-one. My door's wide open. I meet with employees at a variety of times. If they're willing to get there early in the morning or stay late at night, I'll meet with anybody no matter what level they're at. But I don't know that it's tied to any one individual. I've been clear that this department's greater than any one man.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.